This is Rashad for the video rehearsal regarding the gender-based violence in Ecuador. Um, my section was the prevention efforts and research regarding the situation regarding all the violence happening towards the woman of Ecuador. Let's see. My first slide being prevention efforts. I mentioned the National Councils for Gender Equality, which is an organization created by the Ecuadorian government that has played a key role in fighting against gender-based violence by contributing several projects and research regarding the violence happening in Ecuador with the goal to mainstream the idea of gender equality and non-discrimination towards the masses of Ecuador. I also mentioned the national agenda for the equality of women and LGBT. Please give me just a second. Basically, the national agenda for the equality of women and LGBTI people is an agenda created by the Ecuadorian state, and it is carried out by the National Councils for Gender Equality. Basically, it is an agenda that they utilize it's a process created so it would be more inclusive towards the Ecuadorian people, with the main goal of spreading more information and support regarding gender-based violence to those Ecuadorians that come from different backgrounds, whether it's income levels, different sexual orientations, stuff like that. And then let's see, some research and approaches towards Ecuadorian gender-based violence. So one of the things that stood out to me was the bystander intervention research that was conducted in Ecuadorian universities. Basically, the research team that conducted this study went to different universities in Ecuador and basically asked gave them surveys regarding, um, you know, um, rape myths, and basically what they wanted to do was analyze any potential barriers regarding the correlations between students and faculty staff that had a higher belief in like rape myths, but also felt like they can't do much regarding if they encounter sexual harassment or anything like that, or regarding their students and faculty. They found that basically there was a strong correlation between believers of rape myths and those that felt like they couldn't do much regarding how they could respond or resolve witnessed cases of sexual harassment. And then a couple approaches being the social norms feedback approach and the inclusivity approach. Social norms feedback based approach is utilized as a more collective group of people. Basically, the approaches analyze collectives. It focuses more on utilizing collective and social norms to further gather data and teach about gender-based violence. With that being said, it also allows researchers to analyze and brainstorm how gender norms may impact gender-based violence. And then the inclusivity approach, I previously mentioned the other flag a little bit, but basically it's an approach in which it focuses more on other groups, like subgroups of Ecuadorian people, and reaching out to them in order to get a whole collective support of prevention on gender-based violence. And then the prevention recommendations I came up with was so both recommendations, let me start over. The first recommendation I came up with was improving the general Ecuadorian education and awareness of violence against women. This has more to do with defining gender-based violence, but also giving out the statistics, like for example, how many women approximately are affected by gender-based violence in Ecuador. And, like I said, what gender-based violence is. The second recommendation is to promote information on gendered violence identification and what the individual can do about it. Basically, this has more to do with, okay, now we know the problem. how can we go about the problem and how can we go about preventing it further. I want to make these two separate points because with the Ecuadorian education and awareness, they can't really, it's hard to prevent something if you don't even know what it is. So if there are those in Ecuador that do not know or come from an ignorant standpoint regarding gender-based violence, it's important to teach them. And then promoting information on gendered violence, basically that has more to do with what do we do now? How do we solve it? How can we see it? Can we report it? Stuff like that. So